What can we learn about making advice, or when we are seeking advice? What kind of advisors should we seek? This is Marketplace Believers, an online platform that engages, equips, and encourages believers to say inawezekana. If this is your first time to be here, we encourage you to follow us. Go to YouTube channel and type the word Marketplace Believers and hit the subscribe button, so that every time when we upload a new video, YouTube will notify you. Let's talk this Sunday, being the third day of September. If September will be a month of fruitfulness, then it is very important that we always seek the right kind of advice. Now, let's ask our question: does the Bible say anything about advice or advisors? The answer is yes. We see that the name advisors is mentioned about 40 times in the Bible. 40 times. Think about it. Another thing that we see about advice in the Bible is this: that King David, King Ahasuerus, Pharaoh, Nebuchadnezzar, and many other kings were actually surrounded by advisors. The reason why they failed, the reason why they succeeded, is because all of them were surrounded by advisors. Number three, very important. For you to qualify to be an advisor, you need to be trusted. When giving advice, you need to pass the test of trustworthiness, because failure will make or will lead to the king or the leader making very foolish decisions that can plunge the nation or the organization into untold suffering. Now, we have a good example in the Bible, and the example that we find is found in in Second Samuel, Second Samuel chapter number 10, verse 1 to 4. And I think it's always fair to read that. That is Second Samuel, the book of Second Samuel, chapter 1, verse 1 to 4. Let's read what the Bible says. We need to be there. Second Kings, there we are. So what does the Bible say? The Bible says, Second Kings. Sometime later, King Nahash of Ammon died, and his son Hanun became king. David said, Nahash was kind to me, and I will be kind to his son. So he sent some officials to the country of Ammon to tell Hanun how sorry he was that his father had died. But Hanun's officials told him, do you really believe David is honoring your father by sending these people to comfort you? He probably sent them to spy on your city so he can destroy it. Hanun arrested David's officials and had their beards shaved off on one side of their faces. He had their robes cut off just below the waist, and then he sent them away. Let's read verse 5. They were terribly ashamed when David found out what had happened to his officials. He sent a message and told them, stay in Jericho until your beards grow back. Then you can come home. Verse 6. The Ammonites realized that they had made David very angry, so they hired more foreign soldiers. 20,000 of them were foot soldiers from the Aramean city of Beth-rehob and Zobab. 1,000 were from King Maacah, and 12,000 were from the region of Top. I think we can always reach it at that point. That is a very interesting story that we read from there. And David had learned that one of his friends, Nahash, the king of Amorite, and when he learned about the death of his father, what did he do? He sent a peaceful delegation with very good intentions. Intentions were simply to comfort him, to encourage him, to tell him, Paul Sana, because of what you faced. And David was simply sending this delegation to speak comfort, to speak well, to uplift the heart of the new king, and to be able to send him congratulations. The message, the delegation was simply well intentioned. David had decided that I want to be friendly. I don't want to continue with the hostility and the enmity that continued between me and his father. But what do we pick from this passage? We pick a few points, three of them. Number one, you can only rise to the level of your advisors. You can only rise to the level of your advisors. The young king was surrounded by actually bad advisors who actually misunderstood, who actually suspected, who actually had a negative view about the intentions of David. When you are surrounded with bad advisors, actually what they do is that they mess you up. Number two, bad advisors will give you bad advice, and good advisors will give you good advice. The bad advisors gave bad advice to King Hanun. And we ask, why did they give David, why did they give this king Hanun, is it Hanun or Nahash, why did they give the young king bad advice? We propose the following. Number one, they were negative minded and did not see the good in David. And just in the previous chapter, we see David had done good to Mephibosheth, a grandson of Jonathan. And from David and the leaders, we know that David's intentions was very clean. It was very pure. And David had actually two purposes. Number one, to honor Nahash and comfort his son. Number two, these kings gave bad advice because they were simply selfish. You know, you cannot be able to advance good advice if you are selfish. In contrasting with David, they wanted to win favor from the young king. They were simply selfish. And these leaders refused to see it this way. They gave the young king bad advice. And then number three, we can say the reason why they gave the young king bad advice is because they were simply bad advice. With a bad person, what else do you expect but anything but bad things? So we say observation number one, you can only rise to the level of your advisors. Number two, bad advisors will give you bad advice. And then number three, it's your choice to follow or reject advice that is given to you. In this case, the young king decided to embrace, to believe the wrong advice and the evil advice that he was given unto him. And what did he do? He actually arrested King David's men and made a humiliation of them. Our assumption is that this humiliation plan was the advice that he got from his advisors. He sent them away, rejected the message from his mentor David. And King Hanun had done three things. Number one, the right to reject the bad advice and follow his instinct. He had that right. He would say, okay, I am not going to shame these people. After all, they have come to comfort me and to wish me well. I am not accepting that kind of an advice that you're giving to me. Number two, the choice of receiving David messages well and send them in respect. He had that right. He could receive the David messages and not send them in humiliation. And he also had the other choice. He could fire his advisors and get better ones. After all, they were giving him bad kind of advice. You see, so that is things that he would have done, but again, he chose not to do it. Okay? So we see, because of this, he ended up, picking a quarrel. And a big quarrel, of course, with King David, because we see David is planning to fight him. So that is very one of the examples that we find about advice. Now we can ask ourselves, what happens when leaders seek advice? What happens when leaders seek advice? Proverbs 24 verse 6. Proverbs 12 verse 6. Let's read. Proverbs 12 verse 6. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 24, verse number 6. This is what the Bible says. Let's get there. Verse number 6. The Bible says, let's get there. Just in a while. Just in a while, we are getting there. We are getting there. Battles are won by listening to advice and making a lot of plans. I hope you heard that battles are won by listening to advice and making lots of plans. Okay? In fact, when we have a multitude, of advisors, what happens to us is that we are able to win war. Okay? We are able to win the war. Now, what happens? Because one version actually says, "For by wise guidance you can wage war, and in abundance of counselors there's victory." So there are 5 things that actually happens when leaders seek advice. Number one, they are enabled to make better decisions. The ability to make decisions actually rests when you are able to question your own decisions and ask, is this the right advice? Is this the kind of option that I need to pick at this time? When you make a better decision, is simply your organizations becomes better. Better organization simply means they are able to make good decisions. Number two, they evade the pain and heartache of making bad decisions. They escape or they evade the heartache and pain of making bad decisions. Consequences, decisions have consequences, and when you make bad decisions, then you end up reaping pain and agony. The wisdom of others can save us pain and heartache of making bad decisions. The reason why Rehoboam plunged the nation into division is because in the option of making a good decision, when he had plenty of good advice, he chose to follow bad advice. Number three, when leaders seek to follow advice and to seek advice, they are empowered to think bigger and differently, because other people comes with different ideas, other people come with different perspectives, other people come with loads of experience. They have gone through this, and so they are able to help you to think bigger and even better and even think differently. You can't allow yourself to receive advice from one single person. It is always good to have different kind of advices when you are about to do something. Then number four, just governance prevails. Proverbs 25 verse 5 actually says, remove wicked officials from the king's presence, and his throne will be established through righteousness. And so it simply means from that passage that every time when we have those evil kind of advisors, those advisors who are hell-bent, who are daughters and sons of the enemy, they are simply going to make the organization to plummet, to fail, and not to grow. And so for justice to prevail, for fairness to prevail, for equity to prevail, for nepotism and corruption to hit the exit door and run away, then it is very important that you surround yourself with good advisors, with godly, with holy, with righteous kind of advisors. And then number five, when leaders actually seek good advice, when they seek advice, then there is growth of organization. Organization is able to move from this level to the next level. If only one person is making the decision, of course what you expect is limitation and stagnation. No wonder Proverbs 11:14 says, where there is no guidance a people falls, but in the abundance of counselors there is safety. When people are not guided, what happens is that they stumbling. There is stagnation, there is limitation, there is no growth. But when there is a lot of counselors that are working and advancing and giving good advice, then there is safety. Let's now answer our question. How do you tell good from bad advice? I think this is for us, this is a very important question, to be able to tell whether the advice that you are receiving is good or bad. Because for most of us, one of our greatest struggles is when we are not able to tell whether the advice that is given to us is good or bad. And the answers to these question is actually a game changer. When a leader is able to tell that this is bad advice and this is good advice, then I think he or she is, on top of the job. And we believe that that is very important. And so, out of experience, because one of the things we need to say right here, that you cannot be able to tell good or bad advice from on the onset. There is a lot of things that you need to do, and unfortunately we need to frustrate you and disappoint you, that we are not about to tell you a one two three. The ability to tell good from bad advice actually would require a set of asking yourself question. It will actually it will actually take you to take time and think and process yourself, and measure yourself to be able to say whether this advice is good or bad. And so for us, we have developed a set of 7 key questions that we've gleaned from biblical reading and from our personal experience. 7 key questions, 7 guiding questions that one needs to ask, so that you can be able to tell whether this is good or it is bad advice. Number 1, do the advisor want me to be successful? Do the advisor want me to be successful? Remember, your success is determined by the kind of advisors that are close to you. King Nahash advisors were simply bad because they did not want the friendship between him and the king to continue, King Hanun for that matter. So, do the advisors wants me to be successful? Question number 2, do they lead me into the right path? It is very important that you ask yourself, is the advice that is been advised to you, leading you into the right path? Remember, your advisors will influence you, will determine the direction that you're going to take. Much as you have the right to follow your own instinct or to follow something different, but remember that advisors have a higher influence over you, and there is a likelihood that you're going to follow their advice. So, are they leading me into the right path? Number 3, do they help me to see the blind spot? And one of the biggest role of an advisor is to be able to show you the blind spots, to be able to tell you the dangers, to be able to pinpoint the red flags, to be able to tell you this is about to happen. They are able to see beforehand what is going to happen when a particular direction is taken. And so, as you follow advice, you need to ask yourself, is the advisor showing me potential blind spots, potential red flags, that are ahead of me? Number 4, do they make me see my strength? Are they making you to see your potential, what you can be able to, to see your strength, to see the opportunities, to be able to see that which you can follow so that you can become successful? Advisors believes in your ability more than you do. They help you to see opportunities. And for King Hanun, the advisors made him look foolish for believing that King David had meant good by sending a delegation to him, and they succeeded in making him look foolish in believing in David's message. So do they help me to see opportunities? Do they help me to see blessings? Do they help me to see good things in ahead of me? And then number 5, do they correct in love? When you ask for advice, do they rebuke in love? Do they tell you what you don't want to hear? And do they say it in a loving, caring, and indirect way? At one point we have already said in some of the organizations that we work at, please tell us bad news upfront. Because it is very important for a leader to be told the bad news. If the organization is not doing well, say that upfront. Okay. Number 6, do they take you higher than you can fly? Advisors need to lead you into better options that you can think of. One of the biggest dangers of King Hanun's advisors is that they did not want him to fry her. They did not want the relationship, the network between him and King David No wonder because they were repressive and they were evil, they were ungodly, very responsible. No wonder at the tail end, this kind of advice that this young king followed actually ended up in the loss of life and property. Number 7, question guiding question number 7: do they brag about helping me? You do not want to have a scenario where when your advisors have been able or have given you advice, they go telling everybody it's because of my advice. Advising from experience is a role that you need to do it and be comfortable to do it behind the curtain without necessarily blowing your own trumpet. You must wait for the king or your boss to go and say that you are a good advisor. Otherwise, when you go out blowing your own trumpet and saying what kind of a good advisor you are, then you are simply asking yourself to be hired. This is Marketplace Believers, an online platform that engages, equips, and encourages believers to say inawezekana. If this is your first time to be here, we encourage you to do what? To subscribe to our channel. And until